I've made it home, get a little something to eat, getting on afternoon here now. So, yeah, we don't have an abundance of counter space, so I've got to start getting this. The next thing to do is get this stew knocked out, and it shouldn't take too long to get that going. We've got all the ingredients. I saved a little time today. I got the pre-washed and trimmed beans, so that'll save me some time today. So I'm going to get cracking on that. We've got the a lot of stuff being washed right now in there. It's good. This is nice. They come once in a while. It kind of forces us to lift our game a little bit, right? So, all right. First thing I need to do is get the big stew pot out, and I'm going to get the garlic and the onions cut up and sweated, getting all those good juices released from them. And once that's done, we'll get our meat in there, and well, you guys will be along. We'll build it little by little here, okay? First thing, we're in kitchen stadium here today. Make sure your hands are really clean. I'm going to take about 4 decent sized cloves of garlic here, because this is like a doubled recipe for the beef stew, and I just want to cut off each of the little ends on it. Do 1 score down the middle, and that will help. That'll help get the tissue off of it. At least it always works for me. And then we'll chop it up. Chop it up really finely, and that'll really add to the. That'll really make a great base for the flavors. So we just open it up along our score lines there. And that paper just comes right off. Just like that. No fuss, no muss. Just comes right off. Yeah, there's 2. Here comes number 3. And this is really an easy to build beef stew. I call it my Italian style, and people really like that. Italian style. Now I can go put the rest of this in a little baggie and get that away, and in the meantime I'm going to chop these 4 very, very finely here. I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in the big pot that we're going to use to make this. Okay, so we're building ourselves a nice Italian beef stew here. I like to use a small knife. It kind of keeps it a little more controlled. I find when I use a really big knife to do the fine dicing of garlic, I find that the big knife tends to spray out the garlic a little too much. So this is a little easier to control. So that's all nicely chopped right there. So I'm going to go ahead now and grab my olive oil. Off here. Grab my olive oil. And turn you guys over here. And I'm going to add 1, 2. This comes out very slowly. It looks like a lot, but it's not. Pop that in there and begin sweating that, or in other words, getting all those good flavors out of that. Okay, while that's starting, I'm going to go ahead and I've got 2 nice onions that I'm going to cut up too and prep. I'm going to be using red potatoes too, because I find that they really perform really well, and you don't have to worry about peeling them and doing all that stuff. I'm going to turn my garlic down a little bit. I don't want that to race too far ahead here. I'm going to keep that even up. All right, so there's 1 onion peel. And I just cut the two ends off of it and just give a slice down there, and don't peel back too far, but take what you need to get a nice clean onion there. Okay, just like that. She peels off real easy. And there we go. There's two. Get all that funky, and you got two really nice onions that we can now work with here. I'm going to go ahead and cut each of them in half. Then I'm going to cut down in thirds along here. And I'm going to have some decent sized chunks. They're not going to be small pieces here. Okay, decent sized pieces. This is a rough do Italian country style. Okay, so it's, you know, things are supposed to be, you know, this is not, although you would certainly be proud to serve this in a restaurant, this is not something that you're gonna struggle to, you know, do everything finely chopped, and in the end all you do is turn it into some Italian beef puree. You want this thing to have some guts to it, this beef stew. You want it to definitely have some guts to it. This way, this keeps everything well controlled and very easily cut here. So I'm going to go ahead and sweat these now to a golden brown. Turn our heat back up. I like to use a wooden spoon when I work with this. Top with a little more oil here. Now we're going to get our wooden spoon, courtesy our Debbie Lynn spoon here. We're now going to go ahead and sweat, or get these all so they're nice and translucent here, okay? You'll get that nice garlic smell in the house. As you cook it, the pieces will break up too. Make a nice, good, robust sized chunk. Meantime, we can wash our potatoes and get them cut. Okay? We're not going to put them in. We need to put our spices in. Actually, next we're going to get ready our nice stew beef here. We're going to make sure we want to trim that so we don't get any gristle or anything. And then we're going to put that in with the with our sweated onions and garlic. That's going to be really nice. That's going to start to add a real flavor component. If you have any big pieces, just bust them up in there. Otherwise, they'll disintegrate as they cook there. Okay, let me get the meat started. Put that on low. And away we go. I'm going to get all of that gristle off there. And then cube that up into nice sized pieces. This will be your most time consuming thing, but cooking should be fun, right? Shouldn't really be a chore, especially if you're cooking for friends and stuff. That should always be fun. Alright, so I'm gonna onward and upward. Huh? Yeah. But you got your nose in here to see what's going on in the pot.
I gotta watch you. I'm sure.
Well, we finished all the prep. We got the meat cut up real nicely. Now we're going to cook that with the onions and the garlic. And let that get really flavorful. Oh, you got the eye. So, meanwhile, I will wash our red potatoes over there. Cut them up. Yeah, it's going to be a while. We'll get this looking really good. Smelling good. Next thing we'll do is we'll add our spices, our Italian spice here. And that's really the key, right, Jen? That Italian seasoning really kicks it, huh? That's the real deal, baby. Woo! That's it. Molto bene, molto bene. Ooh, looking good. It's coming along. We want that. Really starting to smell good. Garlic, onion, and the juices are going good in there. And that juice is a great base for this. Now we want to go ahead, and this is what makes this a very special beef stew. We're going to go ahead and add 3 tablespoons of Italian seasoning in here. Okay? This is going to make it incredible. This is what makes it a wonderful Italian stew. Okay? You can already smell those great flavors being released. We're going to have let's start with 1 teaspoon of black pepper here. You can always add more, but you can't take it away, so you got to be careful. And then we add 1 tablespoon of salt. And I like to use sea salt. Stir that in really good, and I'll tell you, the aromatics are amazing in here. Just amazing. That smells amazing. All right, we're going to let that cook away a little while, and I'm going to get my basil too. Actually, I want to put now's a good time too, my other secret ingredient. I want to put a tablespoon and a half of rice wine vinegar. You can use red wine vinegar. I like to use Asian rice wine vinegar. It gives a little bit of a umami flavor to it. It makes it really good. Okay, you want a little bit of an acidic edge to it. Okay, and how's that looking? I can tell you that. Let me snitch a piece of beef here. That is off the hook. Woo! That is good. Put a little bit of basil in. About 1 teaspoon of basil. That's great. It just makes it so aromatic. So tasty. Look at that wonderful base. You could almost serve that over noodles if you were doing right now. Okay, and let's see. There we go. Just a few red pepper flakes, that's all I want. Just a few red pepper flakes, just a tiny bit of heat in there. I want people to know they're alive when they eat this stew. Alright. We can set that aside a minute. We don't want to overcook everything. Now we're going to go ahead and prepare our vegetables to go in there, okay? Our potatoes and our green beans, okay? I am back. I ended up running up to the market. Luckily I got one I can just go on foot. It's like 2 minutes away, so that's easy. So I've got my carrots in. I took about 6 really good size red potatoes. They're in there now. We got the beef, the red potatoes, the garlic, the onions. So the last thing we really need to add, we need to get our green beans, and I'm going to add about a ½ pound of green beans in now. Then we're going to add our water and our last secret ingredient, okay? Hope you're having a good time so far, cooking in the kitchen with Rosie, getting ready for the boss and Janet. And Bobby will be coming over for dinner too tomorrow night. Woo! I'll take time to cut each one individually. I just got them kind of roughly at the ends, and then just give them a good chop like that. And any stragglers you can grab along the way, put them right in over the top. The nice thing about this, saves you a lot of time. Yeah, it costs a little more money, but it's definitely worth it. When you pull them out of the bag, they're already like properly aligned. It's not going to be perfect. You'll still find a few. And just give them a cut on the end. And they are just ready to go right in, and in a matter of just that little short period of time. That's the first time I've ever kind of cheated and used them, but I'm kind of glad I did. Now we're going to go ahead. Oh, that's smelling so good. Now we're going to go ahead and initially we're going to turn the heat on here, and we're going to do a little bit of talking about what makes this different. I'm going to add 7 cups of cold water here. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think actually 8. I think 9 is actually my 8, 9, somewhere in there. That'll be fine for right now. And give that a good stir. Here, we've got the heat on now. And now it's kind of time to fire in our last secret ingredient here, which really makes a difference. And we'll talk about our hack. And our last ingredient that I want to talk to you about is the tomato paste. And I'm going to add 2 cans of tomato paste in here, and that will continue to Italianize this stew. The other thing that I'm going to do differently here is I'm actually going to put the heat on here, which you can see here, and I'm going to bring this up to a good boil. And that's the end of everything I'm going to do. I'm going to cover it, turn off the heat, and just let it sit there until it cools down to room temperature. And then I'm going to put it into the refrigerator overnight. And then tomorrow at about 5 o'clock, I'm going to take it out, let it start warming up, then I'm going to cook it. Now what's going to happen is the vegetables in it are still going to be bright. The green beans are going to be bright green. The carrots are still going to be green. People that take these stews and they cook them all day in a crock pot, oftentimes they'll end up with a mush. It might taste okay, but it lacks the eye appeal of a stew that's built that you just bring it up to temperature and then you let it sit on a declining heat until it gets to room temperature. And then if you're going to serve it that day, that afternoon, you can put the heat to it again. And by the time you get it up to a good serving temperature, it is going to be perfect. The potatoes won't be mushy. They'll still have a nice mouthfeel to them. The carrots will have a little bit of oomph to them, and so will the beans. That will not turn into a mush. So I'm going to go ahead and add my 2 cans of tomato paste, and then I've got to go make beds and do some other stuff here. I see the laundry just ding-a-ling-a-ling me. So okay, there's a few hacks for you. I'm going to go ahead and add that in now. Missy Jen's checking up on me in here, making sure I'm not goofing off in the kitchen. There's 1 can. And here comes our second. And this just gives an incredible robustness to the beef stew. And you're going to thank me. You're going to be writing me letters. You're going to be end up being another Rosie fanboy or girl here. Because this stuff is just off the hook, what it does to a beef stew. It also gives it a nice color too. Sort of reddens it a little bit, which really, you know, we eat with our eyes. We just kind of work that in a little bit, and there we have a really beautiful stew that is on their way. So we'll let it cook uncovered, and as she cooks off and gets up to a good boil, it'll start to thicken there. Okay, how's that looking? Pretty righteous. Rosie can cook. I tried to tell you guys. Woo. Hello.
Hello.
What do you think? Huh? You're so used to Rosie's good beef stew.
Yeah, it smells good. It
Let's
looks
give Schmutzy a
good.
little taste here.
It's delicious.
It is rocking it out of this world, guys. Well, it's already come up to, I think, Jen, you were stirring it a little bit. I think it's already made a boil here. And once it reaches a boil, just like you see, we're going to get it bubbling away really good there. Don't be afraid at this part. It's now reached that point. Okay. What we're going to do is turn that off. We're going to now relegate this to the back of the stove, and that is going to simmer itself all the way down to room temperature. Okay, and we're going to cover that, and after it's at room temperature, we're going to refrigerate it and stick it in overnight. It'll get up more flavor. Then tomorrow, about an hour before they come, we'll take it out. So okay. Woo. That's going to do it for today, guys. It was sure a lot of fun to have you along. We got laundry still in there. We knocked out a nice beef stew. We did some shopping. I got my rain gear for crabbing and fishing. Very excited about that. It sounds like Jen's coming back in now. So, all right, thanks so much for being along. Your thumbs up are appreciated. Yum, yum, yum. Can't wait to have you guys here tomorrow. Beef stew.